Moving on again. Now, tonight, we're still awaiting decision from a federal judge here in Portland on whether the big grocery murder trial that took place downtown, how it's going to turn out. It lasted just over 3 weeks, wrapping up early last week. The government and grocery chains Kroger and Albertsons argued why or why not the largest grocer merger in the U.S. history should be allowed to move forward.
The FTC maintains that this merger is anti-competitive, it would be harmful to consumers, that a combined Kroger would raise prices, it would be bad for workers, they would lose bargaining leverage. And they drew on a lot of the testimony, especially from their own experts, which they say underscores all these points, and that they made their case. You know, the other side basically said what they had said at the beginning, which is that this will actually do the opposite. It will benefit consumers. They're going to invest $1 billion in price cuts and $1 billion in wages, and that they will be much better positioned to compete with Walmart and Amazon and Costco, and really be able to have that scale and efficiencies to be a much better competitor.
That's Elizabeth Hayes. She covered the trial for our news partner, the Portland Business Journal, and published this article this morning that we think is worth your time. You may be wondering why you should care about a big corporate merger, and the short answer is that it could have a major effect on your groceries and the price you pay for your groceries. If you eat food from a grocery store, that is, which, I'm guessing is just about all of us. And so this does matter. Elizabeth's article touches on a bunch of interesting moments from the trial, and we're not going to be able to get into all of them tonight, but we do encourage you to check out the full version of that at bizjournals.com/Portland. That's where you can find her article. All right, let's get to a few big points, though. First, how about this? Wall Street investment firms sent representatives to sit in on the trial to try and guess how Judge Adrian Nelson was going to rule. Turns out that Albertsons stock dropped 12% over the course of the trial, which Elizabeth reports shows that investors not all that confident that the merger is going to survive, even though the judge did not appear to be leaning one way or the other.
She said very little. During the trial, it is hard to get a read on how she's going to rule. But she said she would work very hard and expeditiously. She knows that everyone is anticipating, her decision, and she will rule when she rules. Only she can say when that will be. She said there really is no timetable here.
Good to be a judge, I guess. Judge Nelson was nominated by President Biden and confirmed by the Senate last year, so she's quite new to the federal bench. She previously did serve as an associate justice on the Oregon Supreme Court, notably as the first black woman in that role. Finally, the golden parachutes included in this $24.6 billion merger. The government attorneys used these to their advantage during the trial. How about this? $146 million would be spread among Albertsons' top 10 executives, but only if the deal closes. That includes $43 million for the current CEO, $50 million to the current chief operating officer. Those executives were asked about those figures during the trial. They both confirmed that, yeah, they're pretty accurate. So as we wait for a decision from Judge Nelson, here's what's on the line. The feds want a temporary injunction. If Nelson grants that pause, the Federal Trade Commission will then run the merger past an in-house administrative law judge. The companies do not want that. Their lawyers have said that in-house process almost always kills big mergers like this because of how long and clunky the process is. The deals simply fall apart amid the delay, they claim. If Nelson rejects the injunction, the merger will move forward. For now, there are still other lawsuits in Seattle and Denver challenging the merger, so we'll have some time before a final decision, but it's a case that is definitely worth following. You'll see it in the grocery store one way or another. By the way, there are a lot of juicy details in Elizabeth's article, including a section on deleted texts that we think is certain to raise your eyebrows. The article is behind a paywall, just so you know, but it's worth paying for. It's worth reading on bizjournals.com/Portland.